Welcome back to No Filter, Just Life with Nisi. I'm your host, Nisi, and this is episode 5. Welcome back. Or if this is the first time you're seeing me, hello, how are you? My name's Nisi, and welcome to my podcast. In this episode, I'm going to talk about my marriage, being a young married couple, and also moving across the country because my husband had joined the military. So my husband was a hull cleaner, which he cleans the bottom of boats. But then he had like a pressure problem and he couldn't go very deep in the ocean. So he had to find something else because he was in a lot of pain. And then he got migraines and it wasn't a good situation. So we had a conversation and I said, well, I think the only option for us is for you to join the military. And there was a little bit of pushback. I remember he didn't want to. And I basically said, we have no other options. Like I was working at the San Diego Blood Bank. He had 2 part-time jobs because right from high school, he went into his family business, which was a hull cleaner. He was no longer able to do that. So we had to make big people decisions. And I remember putting my foot down. I was pretty adamant and pretty stern about it. And I told him basically at that time, I can't go because I was very overweight and I was like, or else I would. So you have to go. Like, sorry, I was too heavy and you're just right. So we're both making the sacrifices, but we need to think about our family, and that was the best option. So in April of 2006, my husband went away to boot camp and joined the military, and he was gone for, I think it was like 2 months to school. So I was single mom. Hey. And that was hard. That was a crash course into being a military wife. Let me tell you what. So no communication with the husband. I was working. Both of our kids were in daycare at the same daycare, which was amazing. I remember I would drop them off and my sister or my mother would pick them up because I was still working. It was like all hands on deck. Thank goodness, like I have a supportive big family, because I remember like my teenage sister was like picking them up. Like everybody was picking up my kids because I had like a 9-to-5 job that I was doing while my husband was at boot camp. And then, dealing with my children, dealing with work, dealing with, being a single parent at that time, not being able to talk to my husband was very difficult. We made it. I wrote him a letter every day, and I numbered it, just telling him, how proud we were of him, what the kids were doing, what we were doing, because I guess he got mail every Sunday. Maybe we'd get a call from him. It was all very like sporadic. But I do remember there was a struggle, and he didn't get paid for a whole month and a half. And I had to go down to the base and I was like, hey, my husband's in boot camp. He hasn't gotten paid. What's going on? So ultimately they had things that were not right. So I was struggling trying to pay the rent and things like that because it was just me. And we didn't get any income for a month and a half on his side. So that was a lot of fun. Not really. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of thinking if I made the right choice, because I was the one who mentioned it. I just remember just thinking to myself how difficult this is and how am I going to make it? And I did. I took it day by day, sometimes hour by hour. And thank goodness, I had a job, and that helped me through my day and just, put me in the right direction of staying focused and being focused. So I remember my husband graduated from boot camp, and then I saw him for 24 hours, flew to Chicago, and then flew out the next day because he went straight to A school afterwards. And that was another 2 months. So he didn't see his children for about a good 4, maybe 5 months. Again, very difficult. To be quite honest, I was kind of jealous. My husband was in Florida for A school, and he had to think about himself. And I remember him like telling me like he got to go to the mall and he got to do this and he got to do that. And I was trying to be like, oh, I'm so happy for you. But in actuality, I was like, so not fair. Like, you get to do all these things and I'm at home taking care of the kids. So there was a lot of like, not regret. I was envious. I was a little jealous that he got this time and he was able to meet new people and go to new places and do all these things. And although I was happy for him, I was still, very envious. I was, very jealous. And, but during that time, I don't think he knew I was. I think I handled it pretty well. I can't remember that far back. But I mean, he went through A school and he returned in July. And so he was gone from April until July and the end of July. And then he got his orders, and his first orders were Virginia. So we were moving, born and raised San Diegans. We were moving to Virginia. And I was scared. I was so scared. Oh my goodness. A new place, like never been there before. Okay, that was a lie. I just lied. My sister was in the military, and I did visit her when I was in middle school, and it was in Virginia. And so I remember it being cold. And she was there, but we're like 18 years apart. So we moved in August, and we drove there in our 2006 Nissan Altima. We drove across country from San Diego to Virginia in our Altima. And I had my baby sister and our dog because my sister gave my daughter a dog for her birthday. And her birthday is the same. Oh, I didn't say this, but my daughter and my husband have the same birthday. Happy birthday to him. Best birthday gift ever. Okay. Now moving forward. So it was her birthday. My sister gave her a dog. So it was me, my husband, my baby sister, and the dog in our Altima. And we drove across the country on the 40 all the way to Virginia. It took I think it was 3 days. It was terrible. It was horrible. Oh my gosh. I mean, it wasn't a bad drive, but it was so long. Road trips, no thanks. I'd rather fly there. But we had to move our things. And then we moved there, and I don't know if anybody knows about the military, but starting off, my husband was an E nothing, and he made E nothing, and we were a family of 4. And I had to quit my job because we were moving. So we were very tight for money. So when we moved there, we stayed at my sister's house for a couple months, and then we finally were able to get a 2-bedroom apartment. And we had, again, 1 car. We flew our kids. My husband went back to San Diego to pick up the kids, and he did a turnaround flight, and we brought the kids, and we got this 2-bedroom apartment and in Virginia Beach. My husband worked in Norfolk, which was a good 45 minutes from where we lived, and we had 1 car. And my daughter was in kindergarten. So a lot of the times we would get up early I would take my husband to work, come back, get the kids like ready, and take my daughter to school. My son, I had him go to daycare a couple days out of the week as well, to keep him kind of acclimated and involved with others. And I remember picking them up and then having to drive another 45 minutes to go get the husband from work. And we did that for many years. We are a one-car family, and it was tough and it was terrible, and I did not like it at all. I just remember waking up the kids early, and he had to be at the ship because he was tied to a ship, a carrier. Dark nothing. I'm just like, it was cold. It was not fun. I mean, if anyone has ever been on a naval ship, it's metal. Like, it's smelly. I'm not gonna lie, it smells. I don't know. I always call it boat smell. It was like terrible. It was like the stench. I know he didn't have a good time, but I didn't have a good time. But it was what we had to do. And I didn't do it every day. So there was times where my daughter was able to take a bus to school as a young child. I tried to look for a job, but it didn't make sense. Wages were not as high in Virginia. So I would be working to pay for daycare, and that didn't make any sense to me. So what I started to do was I started to take on like babysitting jobs myself and offer my services that way. I like took a CPR class, a couple of courses to ensure that, safety, because if I'm going to take care of somebody else's child, I'm kind of going to take care of them better than my own because they're somebody else's kid. So I wanted to make sure like everything was in line. So I did some babysitting, just to get some money just so that we can do certain things. I mean, we were very strict. I know like it was like we had a couple $100s to last us for 2 weeks after like the bills were paid, rent, light, just insurance, things like that. I just remember like trying to like figure out how to survive on a couple $100s for 2 weeks, a family of 4. So there was a lot of pasta. There's a lot of pancakes. There was a lot of things that you can stretch. Chicken, meals that would go long, not very expensive. We didn't go out a lot. Just making things work because we were, he was a newbie, and, he worked, long hours being on a carrier. He did long-term recovery. So he worked with catapults and resting gear. I only know that because that was his job. So that the flight deck, where the jets fly off the ship and come back, that was his job, was to take care of that equipment. And it was long hours, and there was a lot of alone time for me. Not alone without children, but alone without the husband. And it was molding me to be an independent person. In my opinion, not a lot of people can handle being a military spouse. You have to build a very thick skin, and you have to learn how to be very independent because you're alone a lot. You're going to be doing a lot of things by yourself, and you're going to have to handle things by yourself and figure it out, because 9 out of 10 times your spouse is not going to be there to help because they're, away or at work and there's no service. And, so I learned how to be an independent person, which has its pros and cons. My husband did a deployment in 2008, and the ship, a year leading up to deployments, do something called workups, and they go out a couple times. I'm going to say at least 2 weeks out of every month leading up to it, preparing themselves, preparing the ship, doing whatever. I say preparing the family because we do not see them ever. So the husband would leave and maybe come back on certain days, maybe not because of weather, because of I don't know what, things break, things happen. So I learned to function as an independent person with a family. And it was hard. And it was hard for him when he would come back. He would come back and we had our routine and we had our roles and we knew what to do. And he would come back and he would want to take the reins. And it's like, you're not messing this up. You were gone. And it was hard for him to understand that. And looking back, like I understand, he's gone and he's coming back and he's, the head of the household. But sir, you were gone for almost 2 weeks. Life goes on. And as a military person, I can't imagine coming back and your family is changed. And the kids look probably different. They act different. Your spouse is different every time. So leading up to his deployment was difficult. His first deployment was 7 months, I believe. And it was tough. I remember the night before we had to take him to the ship. It was very tough. We had long conversations. We were sad. We went through all the emotions. And in the morning, we took him to a ship. We saw the ship leave. And that was the first day that my son started kindergarten. And my son was the worst at going to school. He cried every single day. Every day he cried. Taking him to school. He did not want to leave me. He was my little son who wanted to stay with his mom all day long. So along with his dad leaving, and then probably not understanding how long, he had his first day of kindergarten as well. So that was fun. Deployment was tough. Every time my husband would leave, I would get sick somehow. I remember I had a reaction. I had hives for 2 weeks, or I would hurt myself some way. Always. My kids knew that when dad left, something's going to happen to mom. Don't know why, but something would always happen. But we got through it. And 7 months later, dad came back to a whole new family. And that is a whole different story. Just imagine leaving your family and coming back 7 months later. What does that look like? Your family is completely different. 7 months being without your family. You, as the military person, having your own missions and doing you for 7 months, and then you come back to your family, and then what? And then you have to find your place again. So I remember that was very difficult. And I don't think that anybody could be prepared to come back from a deployment. So again, that's a whole different conversation. That's where a lot of our trials came from, was him leaving and coming back. There's a lot of push and pull. But again, it built a better foundation for me today. And it helped me understand. And it's given me knowledge to assist anybody in that same situation, to give them the best advice that I can now, looking back. But yeah, just tough times, a lot of life skills. Learning how to do things, reading on how to do things, trial and error. I think my whole life up until this point was all of my knowledge came from my own life and my own research and my own trials and tribulations and all of anything that I've been through. That's what's molded me today. So that was the first big, no, that was the second big, because the first one was me having a kid. Second one was moving across country as a new family. So that's all that I have for this episode. Please join me for my next episode. And I appreciate all of you guys listening to me up until this point. And I am greatly appreciative for you all. And I hope you all have an amazing day. And I can't wait to see you on my next episode. Bye.